Funnily enough, the catalyst for this book was a mansplaining moment of our own. It happened a few years ago at one of those women's network conferences that businesses run to support their female employees. You may well have been to one, and you undoubtedly know how they come about. Let's get some women in to talk to some other women about some things to do with women. We could call it #AdvanceHer. Linda from Human Capital Management will love to take it all on, provided it's an addition to her day job. I'd be happy to act as sponsor. We had been invited to the conference to speak about our specialism, marketing to women. We run a research business that specialises in the female audience. We set the business up just over 15 years ago, after both having worked in senior jobs in advertising. During our time in the advertising industry, we developed an increasing sense that women were underserved and understood as an audience. So we left our jobs and set up as Europe's first research consultants specialising in understanding women. The opportunity, as we saw it, was to provide businesses and their agencies with an appreciation of what the modern female consumer was really like. Who was she? What was she thinking and feeling and wanting and needing? How was she different by age, geography, affluence, and socio-demographic group, and what were those differences? What did she feel about herself and her life and her hopes? What did she really need and value in the categories and the brands that she bought? So, there we were at this event, ready to give a perspective on marketing to women based on over a decade spent researching the subject with women themselves. At the awkward milling around drinking stale filter coffee stage of the proceedings, one of the few men attending the conference introduced himself, and we heard from him the usual prosaic. So, what brings you here preamble that often gets cast more glamorously as networking? We explained that we ran a research company that specialised in marketing to women and were at the event to contribute from the research perspective on how women were changing. In particular, we were going to make the argument that marketing was failing to understand and reflect those changes and was, in many, usually unconscious ways, still casting women as secondary. At this point, it would be terribly convenient to report that, like Rebecca Solnit's Very Important Man, our version proceeded to clear his throat and hold forth on the subject of women, how he believed they were changing, how he had observed that marketing was failing to understand and reflect those changes, and had we ourselves noticed that marketing was, in many usually unconscious ways, still talking to women in ways that cast them as secondary? Annoyingly, it didn't happen quite as neatly or, in fact, as nicely as that. Instead, our man appeared very courteous, nodded and earnestly, and then proceeded to argue entirely against our proposition.